nest perform a perfect air conditioning function. And there are other amazing examples of termites' construction knowledge. Another species of northern Australia makes nests in the shape of a dagger, very wide but with very fine edges. The secret of these nests lie in their angle to the sun. The nests are at such an angle that at noon, when the sun is at its height, only a very small surface of the nest faces the sun, and thus heat is kept to a minimum. The same angle is employed in all these species' nests, with no mistakes. But the most striking feature of this subject is that the termites, which do all this wonderful building, are blind. So, how do these tiny creatures, which cannot see a centimeter in front of them, construct these giant towers based on fine engineering calculations? How do the 1.5 million termites in one nest manage such perfect cooperation? A famous British naturalist, David Attenborough, makes this comment on the question in one of his documentaries.
Each worker places its pellet of mud in a position demanded by a master plan, though how they are able to do so, we don't begin to understand.
This great plan, which human beings cannot understand, but which termites obey without question, is the inspiration given to these creatures by God. Another of nature's master architects are weaver birds, which build their nests by sewing blades of grass to one another. In order to build a nest, a weaver bird first forms a triangular framework. Then it covers the outside of this frame by tying 3 different kinds of knots. Each nest has a sound frame, walls, and an entrance. The first step in the construction of the nest is the tying of a long, thin blade of grass to a thin branch. But that is by no means easy. The weaver bird has a real struggle to tie just one knot. It is very important for this first knot to be in the correct form. Otherwise, there will be no point in continuing with the construction of the rest of the nest. Because if the first knot is wrong, then the rest of the nest will all be wrong too, as they are all based on the first one. The knots multiply over time and take on the form of a hoop. The bird has to carefully calculate the dimension of the hoop it forms. The hoop has to be big enough for itself to enter, but small enough to keep other larger birds out. The bird gets the ideal size for the hoop right at once and every time. After weaving the foundation hoop around it in this manner, it begins to build the roof space. The technique weaver birds use to build their nests is the same as that used by human weavers. They weave the blades of grass by passing them under and over each other. They employ this technique with great patience and eventually construct perfect nests. When one looks at the trees weaver birds live in, they look like giant cities made of hundreds of houses, not just a single one. Every single weaver bird has built a house of the same construction, obeying the same power. Another creature reminiscent of the honeybee with its architectural skill is the paper wasp. This species of wasp chews pieces of wood and uses them to produce cellulose, in other words, paper. Then it uses this paper to build itself a round nest. It makes hexagonal combs, just like the honeybees, from the paper which it sticks to the inside of the roof. It places an egg into each hexagon on the roof. Some 3 weeks later, larvae emerge from these eggs. These larvae demonstrate a surprising intelligence and close up the mouths of the comb. In this way, they avoid falling down under their own weight. After a few more weeks of growth, they emerge from their cells as adult wasps. The young wasps lose no time in throwing themselves into life. Every task they have to perform is inspired in them by their creator, God. The young enlarge the construction which their mothers began. At the end, a rather large colony emerges. The wasp's nest is now a multi-storied apartment block. Every wasp born here will abide by the letter to the inspiration given to it. These small pots you see belong to another species of wild bee. This wild bee makes a sticky mud by mixing its saliva with moist soil. It makes exceedingly regular pots by using the mud it makes. It gives form to the mud by continually turning it around, the same technique used by human beings to make pots. When the pot is finished, it doesn't neglect to add a lid. When everything is ready, the bee turns its rear towards the mouth of the pot and leaves an egg inside. After adding some food materials to the pot, it seals the mouth up and flies off. The larva which hatches from the egg will later break the pot and emerge and start a life of its own. These are pots broken by the young and then abandoned. The young which emerge start to build perfect pots, just like their mothers did, and with no training. This wonderful craft they possess was inspired in them by God, their creator. Spiders, on the other hand, make their webs with threads from their own bodies. Spider thread is 5 times stronger than steel of the same thickness. Even large flies which move fast through the air cannot escape the strong and flexible trap of the spider web. There are sticky droplets on black widow spider webs. It is impossible for prey caught in these webs to free themselves. The spider's web is sticky, flexible, and amazingly strong. Beyond being a trap, this web is actually an extension of the spider's own body. The spider feels the vibration of every prey that gets caught in the web and catches it without delay. The web is produced in the spider's hind quarters. It pulls the thread produced by a special organ with its legs. The sticky droplets on the surface of the thread are actually small bunches of thread. These open out when necessary and the web easily stretches.